Hey everybody, what's up? Dark Claw here, and today I'm going to be showing you my PlayStation 2 collection. I decided I'm going to showcase my entire game collection one by one from different systems, and I thought I'd start with my largest collection, which is my PS2 collection. So without further ado, let's get started. The first game I have for the PS2 is Spy Hunter, which I actually got back in 2010 when I was about 15. This game is actually pretty fun. It's a reimagining, or basically a remake of the original Spy Hunter video game that came out in 1983 in the arcades, and it's been heavily revamped to include a bigger story. It's a bit generic in the story department, but the gameplay department is really good. Your car is equipped with many different weapons like rockets, machine guns, missiles, stuff like that. There's like a variety of different missions you can do, like collect satcoms, place trackers on armored vehicles, destroy certain vehicles, avoid civilians, a lot of stuff. It's a pretty solid game and it's really cheap. I got this for like $2, so yeah, definitely a steal. King of Fighters Maximum Impact. Not the best game in the series, but not a bad one either. It's a fairly decent entry point for the 3D games. I think this was the first KOF game to be in 3D, not including the Fatal Fury games. No, because I know Fatal Fury had a 3D game in 1999 on the original PlayStation, but it wasn't really a King of Fighters game. It was just a Fatal Fury game, because King of Fighters is really just a huge crossover franchise that contains a lot of different SNK companies. But yeah, KOF Maximum Impact, decent game, but not as good as the sequel. Twisted Metal Black, great game. I actually had a lot of fun with this one. Played it with my friends, played it alone. The game is pretty freaking intense. Like, the cutscenes are insanely dark. There's a lot of nasty shit in it. Like, sometimes there's gore, oftentimes there's lots of very dark themes. It's a very messy, very twisted game, but it's really fun. Sonic Mega Collection Plus. This one contains all the Genesis Sonic games, and it even includes some Game Gear games, which is really cool. It's an overall fantastic package. I really like this one a lot. Played this when I was a kid. Still love it today. Definitely one of the best Sonic compilations you're going to get, if not maybe the best. The Simpsons Road Rage. Played this a lot when I was in middle school. And I loved it so much. Yeah, it is a ripoff of Crazy Taxi for sure, but I still had a lot of fun with it. I actually found this a little bit easier to play than Crazy Taxi. Although Crazy Taxi is the better game, I still found a lot of enjoyment out of Road Rage. My biggest issue with this is that the loading times are insanely long for a PS2 game, and the character quotes tend to get a little repetitive after a while, so it becomes kind of tiresome to hear. It's just no longer funny, but the gameplay is where it shines, and I think that's what really matters to me. Kingdom Hearts 2. Love this game. Easily one of my favorite games on the PS2, and my favorite Kingdom Hearts game of all time. I'm excited for KH3 to come out. I cannot wait. I am psyched. But this game is my favorite one in the series by far, because I feel like the gameplay is overall stronger, the camera controls are better, the controls are better, or in general, there's a lot more worlds to explore, the story is overall stronger. The game itself is just really good overall. It has a lot of improvements over KH1. However, there are a couple of departments where it sort of missed the mark and that KH1 simply did better. First off, the Atlantica stage pissed me off here. I mean, it pissed me off enough in the first game. I really didn't like the Atlantica stage in the first game, but I'd rather play that 1,000 times over than Atlantica here, because it's nothing but a really crappy rhythm game that You don't even get to fight. You only go through the story by just playing a really crappy rhythm game that's more of stupid quick time events than anything, and it's really annoying. Not to mention the songs in there are they're either poor renditions of the original songs that were in the movie, or the new songs are just flat out terrible and Sora just can't freaking sing. Another thing I felt this game slightly suffered from was the boss fights. Now, most of them are pretty good, but there were a few boss fights I felt were just far too damn cheap for their own good. Like, I don't mind difficulty I don't mind challenging difficulty in video games. I just don't like cheap difficulty when the deaths don't feel like they're your fault and this is the game just trying to screw with you. I don't like that when things get too unbalanced. And there were times when the game could just suffer some wild difficulty spikes, and it's a bit inconsistent in places. I felt that KH1 had overall stronger bosses. The only boss I absolutely despised fighting was Maleficent in her dragon form, because that bitch has basically no chill, took so long to beat, and you can never tell when and the right time is to attack. She's always going on a rampage, and it makes it really hard to plan your strategy. So yeah, but despite the slightly weaker boss fights and the worse Atlantica stage, this still is my favorite one everywhere else anyway, and I still play the hell out of this. I just love this game. It is an amazing, amazing game. Max Payne. This is actually one of my favorite games developed by Rockstar, or published anyway. This game is really fun. It's a third-person shooter with a neo-noir kind of setting tone to it, where you play as a fugitive cop named Max Payne, obviously, whose family had been killed by drug lords, and now you are... And also, he's been framed for murder. So you have to hunt. So now you're being hunted down by cops, and you got to take revenge on the people who framed you. And one thing that's really cool about this game is the bullet time system. I absolutely love that. It's freaking awesome. The Matrix is my favorite movie of all time, so this one was just really cool seeing the bullet time action right here. It was just freaking awesome. I sadly don't have 2 or 3 though. I really need to get those. Bakugan Battle Brawlers. I used to really like the Bakugan anime when I was a kid, but I don't really watch the show anymore, and the game isn't bad, actually. It's okay, but I just don't really play I just don't really watch Bakugan anymore, nor do I play the game. I just think it's kind of eh. Guilty Gear X2. This one is a 2D fighting game with an awesome heavy metal and rock soundtrack. This game kicks ass. It is a load of fun to play. I love the anime style. I love the soundtrack, obviously. And the fighting system takes a bit of time to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun. The overall game is just pure gold. Sadly, it's the only Guilty Gear game in my collection, but I have played the other games. So, yeah. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, definitely one of the best, definitely, without question, one of the better movie-based games. A lot of the times they don't turn out so well, but there are a few movie-based games that actually do kick some ass, and this one is one of them. Really fun. Highly recommend it. Wild Arms 3. This is the only No, it's not the only Wild Arms game. I do have Wild Arms 2 on the original PlayStation, but I have it digitally. But Wild Arms 3 is a really fun game, really solid, but unfortunately I ended up getting stuck because I couldn't figure out where the hell else I was supposed to go. So I'm gonna have to retry this game so I can be able to beat it, but I love this game. I just need to find the time to... I just need to restart my file so I don't get lost, because I just don't know where I'm at anymore. Kill Switch. This is a third-person shooter that actually predates Gears of War. with the cover mechanics. I think this was actually the first game to utilize the cover system as its core mechanic. Granted, this wasn't the first game to use cover at all, but because I think that goes to win back covert operations on the original, on the PlayStation 2 and the N64. But this one really utilized the cover system to full effect, and I think it worked very well in its favor. I actually think this game is pretty fun. It's what I would consider a hidden gem on the system. Definitely worth checking out. Enter the Matrix. A lot of people give this game a lot of shit, say it's just awful. I don't think it's that bad, but it definitely isn't a great game. But I've played far worse. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's okay. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. Not as good as Budokai 3, but in my opinion better than Budokai 1. I think the Dragon Ball Z games just kept getting better as they went on, at least up into Tenkaichi. Yeah. Time Crisis, Crisis Zone. This is the only light gun game, or one of the only light gun games I have for the PS2, sadly, and I don't have a gun con. So, but even if I did get a gun con, I don't have a CRT anymore. I have a 32-inch HD TV. So that's not going to work anyway. It'd be pointless unless I get a CRT. But make no mistake, this is still a fun game even with the controller. I love light gun games, and this is a great game to play. Although my favorite Time Crisis game would easily have to be 2. But Crisis Zone is still a great game. Reckless the Yakuza missions. This one is a mission-based driving game where it takes place in Tokyo, I think. Does it take place in Tokyo? No, not Tokyo. Hong Kong. That's what it was. And you're supposed to destroy the Yakuza. I know I said Yakuza, but I think it's Yakuza. You're supposed to destroy the Yakuza, and you can also destroy a lot of random objects along with it. The game is overall pretty decent, but the multiplayer mode sucks, though, because instead of doing the split screen mode, you have to keep both cars in the same field on the screen at all times, and I didn't like that because it made the missions end way too quickly, and it was really frustrating to stick together. So yeah, Gran Turismo 4. I actually really enjoyed this one. Probably not quite as much as 3, but I love the sheer amount of content utilized in this game, and that the gameplay had been fine-tuned. Although, it is a lot harder than the third game, for sure, because this one has cars that are harder to control than others, and it takes the simulation thing to a whole new level. They crank that shit up quite a bit. Still, though, 4 is still a really awesome game. I hate the license tests, though. They are even worse there than they are in GT3, because they take way too long to finish. SOCOM Combined Assault. Not my favorite game in this. Not my favorite franchise. Not saying it's bad or anything. The SOCOM games are good, but I am not very good with these games. I'm not that great at shooters anyway, so I'm just terrible at tactical shooters. There's just so much going on, I cannot process all this information in my head. I think the only tactical shooter I was actually comfortable with was Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon Wildlands. Yeah. Dead to Rights. This is another third-person shooter, and this is actually really fun. It's actually a hidden, what I consider a hidden gem on the PlayStation 2. This one is this is actually developed by the same guys did Kill Switch, but it's also done by the same guys did Tekken, Soul Calibur, Pac-Man. It's developed by Namco. This game is a lot of fun. It has some mini-games that are actually important to the game, and they're not actually all that intrusive, thankfully. But the interesting thing is, you don't just fire your guns, you can also use melee attacks. And surprisingly enough, the melee attacks are very effective. They're not weak, they actually have some weight and strength to them, so it's pretty neat. Disgaea Hour of Darkness. This one I actually had a lot of fun with, and I found this game to be hilarious. It has a lot of great humor in it, and I love the anime art style. It's quite cool. And what I really like about this game is that you can build up a large army of you can build a large army of fighters on your team, like from different classes, like mages, warriors, fighters or brawlers, pugilists, demons, hogs, prinnies, which are the penguins in this game that actually explode when you throw them, angels, devils, stuff like that. There's just a lot that you can recruit into your party, and you can only summon 10 at a time, but the sheer amount of creativity and customization for these characters is crazy awesome, and I love that. Especially you can name your characters, except for Laharl and Etna and any stationary characters that are important to the story. So yeah, great stuff. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. A lot of people normally have this on the GameCube, but I have it on PS2, and I can assure you this version still runs just as well. This game is actually really fun, but I never finished it. I think I got like halfway through it, and then I just kind of got stuck. I don't know. I'll have to go back to my old file to see where I left off. Maybe I can try and get further into it, but make no mistake, this game is awesome, and I highly recommend checking it out. I love the, I actually do like the, time rewind mechanic, where if you die, you can rewind your, to your last save zone, but you can only use it a limited number of times before it runs out. So obviously they weren't going to make this easy. You had to make sure you use it wisely, which I thought was nice. So yeah. Finding Nemo. This is not all that good. It's a very mediocre game based off a movie, which the movie was great, and I even saw the sequel in theaters, Finding Dory, but the game isn't all that good. It's a very below average game with insanely frustrating difficulty that really does not have a reason to be this frustrating, especially considering it is a kid's game. I mean, it doesn't have to be too easy, but it's way too damn frustrating. Gran Turismo 3. Easily the best one in the series. This one I still play a lot today. It's just so much fun. It's memorable. It's just... There may not be as many cars to choose from compared to the other games in the series, but I still found this to be an awesome game to play. Midway Arcade Treasures. This one contains over 20 different arcade games like Defender 1 and 2, Joust 1 and 2, Paperboy, 720 Degrees, Marble Madness, Road Blasters, Gauntlet, Spy Hunter, and a lot of others. Great stuff. Oh, it even includes Sinistar. This is easily the best Midway Arcade Treasures compilation in my personal opinion. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. I love this game. I played this one, Pro Skater 4, and Underground a lot when I was in middle school. Tony Hawk was just basically my life at that point. I played the hell out of these games, loved listening to the soundtracks, especially with this one, containing Ace of Spades, AFI, Guttermouth, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and, what else is there? Alien Ant Farm. Great stuff. I really, really like the soundtrack, and I really like the game in general. It's fun, it's challenging, it's just so good. I love this game to death. I love the Tony Hawk games. At least up to American Wasteland. I felt American Wasteland was the last really good game. Although Downhill Jam was okay, Proving Ground was okay, Project 8 was okay, but Proving Ground was, in my opinion, what was the last game that was somewhat decent before Tony Hawk Ride came out, and then shit started hitting the fan. It started to suck. Shred was even worse, and then came Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which basically just buried the nail in, it just was the final nail in the coffin, and it was just complete trash. But the previous Tony Hawk games were quite fun. Pro Skater 3 I just had a lot of enjoyment out of, especially with friends. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, I probably had the most fun with this one next to Underground, but I probably played this one the most because I like the more explorative nature of it, where you could actually choose what goal you wanted to pick. And there was just a lot of different challenges you could do, some of them being as weird as feeding sea lions, or and just not getting eaten by a shark. There's a lot of weird challenges, but the game itself was just overall lots of fun. And if you play it, and if you enable the cheats on this one, it is freaking hilarious. There's just... the cheats on this made me laugh. Big head mode, moon gravity, kid mode. Just, oh my god. Just hilarious. The game was a lot of fun, too. And the music was even better. Just loads of good songs, like... bands from AC/DC, System of a Down, Aesop Rock, what else? There were a few other bands I really liked. The Offspring, The Cult, Iron Maiden, can't go wrong with Iron Maiden. I think I mentioned The Offspring, but I'm not sure, but I know it has The Offspring. And just a lot of bands and artists. Oh, and it has Run DMC and Public Enemy, can't go wrong with that. Great stuff, I love that game. Pac-Man World 2. Definitely the best one in the World series, at least as far as I played. I haven't played Pac-Man World 3, but I heard 3 was not that great, because it took a much different turn with the series, but I don't mind different turns in games as long as they can be done right. But Pac-Man World 1 was good, but it wasn't great, but Pac-Man World 2 was much better. This one substantially improved on the original in so many ways, and it's just an overall fantastic platformer. I really enjoyed it. There are some minor issues the game does suffer from, but the overall quality of it is quite staggering, to say the least. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, easily one of the best Dragon Ball Z games I've ever played. So much fun. Plenty of characters to choose from, a much more tweaked fighting system. It's more challenging, it's just a much bigger game. Great game. Kingdom Hearts Re-Chain of Memories. This one was not my favorite game in the series. I didn't really like this one as much as 1 and 2, mainly because I didn't like the card battle system. I thought it was just kind of off-putting and just really restrictive in comparison to 1 and 2. Thankfully, they never used it again. I'm not saying Re-Chain of Memories is bad or anything, it's just nowhere near as good as the rest of the games. I feel it's the weakest entry. Kingdom Hearts 1. I like the second one just a bit more, but 1 is still my second favorite, and I still enjoy this game quite a lot. However, like I said before, the Maleficent Dragon boss fight, I felt that one was just a pain in the ass, and it was incredibly cheap. I would say the Chernobog boss fight was bad too, but the more I play it, the more I realize it isn't really an unfair match. You just gotta memorize his patterns. So, thankfully, it's not complete bullshit. But, most of the boss fights are great, though. They actually are fair, and they have a good amount of challenge, but they don't go to the point where it's just complete BS. It's balanced, and even the final boss fight I didn't have that much trouble with, although some people have had a lot of trouble with Ansem, and I can understand that, but I think it just really takes a lot of patience and perseverance. Not to mention, you are really going to need Aeroga if you want to kick his ass, because Aeroga can save you. Not only that, not only will it lessen the damage you take, but it will actually damage your opponent as well. So, yeah. Great stuff, though. Really good game. 2 is better in my opinion, but 1 is still fun. Champions of Norath. This one actually runs on the same engine as the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance series, which is really cool, and it's developed by the same company too, Snowblind Studios. This game is awesome. I really enjoyed this one. It's a lot harder than the Baldur's Gate games, but it's still really fun. I highly recommend checking it out. If I can get the other games out, it's taking a bit. Oh, damn it. This does not feel too great. Why is it so sticky? Next I have Power Drome, which is a pretty decent game. It's a racing game. Kind of reminds me of F-Zero a bit. Not bad. It's one of those games where you can find the bargain bin, and I bought this for like $1, not even kidding. Not a bad game for only $1 though. Namco Museum. This one's pretty decent. It's got Pac-Man, Galaga, Dig Dug, Pole Position, and Ms. Pac-Man and Galaxian. But sadly, the rest of them are just either sequels or just arrangement versions. It does have arrangement versions of Dig Dug, Galaga, and Pac-Man, though, and it's pretty neat. It also includes Pac-Mania and Pac-Attack, but sadly, the variety is not quite that. But the variety isn't all that great here. It would have benefited if the selection was a bit more varied, but it's still a really solid title, though. I need to get Namco Museum 50th Anniversary. I've heard a lot of good things about that. Star Wars Battlefront 2. This game is awesome. I really enjoyed this one. I felt this one is easily the best Star Wars game. The shooting mechanics are really good. The Jedi playing as a Jedi is really fun, and there's just a lot of content in this game. It's got a lot more content than the modern Battlefront 2 ever could muster. Take that, EA. GoldenEye Rogue Agent. A lot of people seem to hate this game, say it's complete shit, but I thought it was pretty good. I mean, in my opinion, I actually prefer this one over the original GoldenEye, because while the original GoldenEye is still a good game, I don't think it's aged as well as it could have. This one, I think, has aged pretty well, although the campaign is really short. I will give it that. Soul Calibur 2, another game I played throughout middle school. I love this game to death. Played the hell out of it, and I got really good at it at one point. And I actually still got my, and I actually did play it again recently, and I still got my skills, which is pretty impressive if I do say so myself. Anyways, considering this is the PlayStation 2 version, this version contains Heihachi from Tekken. I also have it on the GameCube as well, and the GameCube version, I know a lot of you will know that it contains Link. There's also an Xbox version, which I don't have yet, but I will get that eventually, and that one contains Spawn, which is pretty sweet, so yeah. Soul Calibur 2, awesome game, easily one of my favorite games in the series. Soul Calibur 3. I didn't like it quite as much as 2, but I still think this is a great game nonetheless. But I didn't play it anywhere near as much as the other ones because I got spoiled by 4 and 5. I did have 3 somewhere around I did get 3 in 2010, but I got a bad disc and it took me a while before I could finally replace it. So I finally did, and now I could play it, so yeah. Burnout 2, Point of Impact. Not as good as the third one, but a lot better than the first one for sure. This one actually contains Crash Mode, which is one of the best parts about Burnout. So that's cool. Madden 2005, I don't give a shit about this game because I don't like sports games a lot much. I only have it because my cousin gave it to me. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. This game was awesome. This one had, like, this one not only allows you to go on the skateboard, but it allows you to ride on the bikes as well, and it's not a skin swap. It actually feels like a different experience, which is neat. Also, the open world thing had been fine-tuned heavily. It's a lot less stiff than it was in the Underground games. So yeah, this one's just a lot of fun, and the soundtrack is amazing. I'll put a couple more games in here before I end this video. Ape Escape 3. This one was really fun, although the controls are a bit strange at first because the jump button is not really where you would expect. Instead of it being on the X button, instead of it's just like on the R2 button, which is kind of weird, but the face buttons are used for different gadgets, so you become accustomed to it after a while. But when you play other platform games, it'll be hard to do that. Still though, Ape Escape 3 is a lot of fun. I just never finished it. Next I have Winback Covert Operations, which is an awesome game. Well, not awesome, but it's a pretty solid game. This one does have this one is one of the early innovators of having the cover system, but it's not really that great. I don't think it was fully perfected until like Gears of War came out in 2006, but went back. It's a pretty decent game. The multiplayer is easily the best part about it. And the last one I have, or at least the last one I'm going to show today, is Dragon Ball Z Budokai, first one. Not as good as 2 and 3 in my opinion, but I still really enjoyed it. Anyways, so that's part 1 of my PS2 collection. I still got a lot of games left to show. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.